loves to love, the wisdom teeth. What you on about? I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my bones. I'm stronger now. I'm ready to fall to life. Reaching out of smoke. I can't do it alone. I can't do it alone.
What does God want us to know? Basically these are the first words. In fact, I'm going to be just tracking through the book of Revelation. I don't know if you have a paper copy or you're using your Logos copy. It doesn't really matter to me, but the first verse is the essence of the book. And so it's the revelation of Jesus Christ. Apocalypsis means see clearly. Actually, it's the word for unveiling. When I was little, my father worked for General Motors for 46 years, building cars. He made the bumpers, the design for them, ground them out of metal. And once a year, they'd have the Detroit Auto Show, and they would cover up the newest models with tarps or sheets or something. And on TV, they would pull the sheet off, list whatever version of whatever car you wanted to buy, and everyone was excited it would be on TV. That's the word apocalypsis. Something that's covered up, and you pull off the covering, and it's clearly seen for the first time. So God says, I want to help you clearly see Jesus Christ. And the book of Revelation says, the book of Revelation is God sending this picture of Christ. So it all of a sudden makes the whole book very unique. To show his servants. So we're getting into brand new territory. There's no other book of the Bible that God sent to Jesus to give to us. It's unique. Of all the books of the Bible, that's why it's at the end. That's why it's a whole genre of literature. But the reason for it is this. Now, the opening verses of Hebrews are fantastic. Look at this. God, who at various times and various ways spoke in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days. Now, the Bible defines when the last days are. They're the times when Christ came to earth and onward. So we're in the last days. If people mock you and say, you're not in the last days, in fact, I get comments all the time online. We're not in the last days. In fact, when Russia invaded Ukraine, the most amazing event happened. Everyone got scared around the world. It's a global event. People are scared. They're worried that Russia's going to do something, maybe even send missiles toward Europe or us. And so people started watching prophetic videos, which I have a lot of them online, and they started commenting saying, we're not in the last days. We are in the last days, according to God, not according to them, because those people define life by themselves. But God says, in these last days he's spoken by his Son, whom he, that's God the Father, appointed heir of all things. So God the Father appointed Jesus to be heir of all things, through whom he also made the worlds. God made the worlds through Christ. We know that. Paul said, by him were all things created that are in heaven and earth and under the earth. Colossians 1:15 and 16 and 17. So Jesus is the creator. Jesus is the heir of all things. But look what else. He is the brightness of God's glory. And I made it in yellow, the express image of God's person. A great Bible teacher of generations ago, his name was W.A. Criswell, the pastor of First Baptist Church. If you've ever heard of Billy Graham, he went to church. He was a member of that church. So it was this massive Dallas church. Criswell was kind of the granddaddy of all the Bible expositors. He taught through the Bible one verse at a time and was very good at it. And when he got to this verse, he says, you know what? The only God you'll ever see is Jesus Christ. When you get to heaven, you're not going to see three gods walking around up there. There is one God in three persons, but two of them are invisible. They're spirits. One has been incarnated into visible flesh to be seen. That's Jesus Christ. And so the way we understand the invisible God is to see, look at this, the express image of his person, Jesus Christ. And upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had by himself purged our sins, he sat down at the right hand of the majesty on high. That's God the Father. Then look what Jesus says in John 14:9. The disciples were struggling with all this too. They were saying, how do we know what God the Father looks like if he's invisible? And Jesus says, have I been with you so long that you do not know me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father, so how can you say, show us the Father? He said, if you see me clearly, you'll see God the Father clearly. And then it ends with the part everybody's interested in. The first verse is why the book of Revelation is so contested. The things which must shortly take place. That's the future. That's the map of the future. So that's the book of Revelation. If we were to distill it down into a little chart, the 7 parts, and where they break down, and I'm going to actually be challenging you because it's a great witnessing tool. If someone asks a question about prophecy or the Bible or God, you should know right where to take them in the Bible. And so it's just a great thing to know. But the first section we're on is Christ Church on Earth. Now, most people like pictures better, so let's just show the whole book of Revelation as an animated chart, okay? We are the church on earth. That's the first 3 chapters. The next event is going to be what John 14, but it's also in Revelation 3, Luke 24, and Acts 1, and that's the rapture. We are going to stand one at a time before the raised judgment seat of Christ, the Bema, as Paul used the word from his ministry at Corinth. And then the tribulation launches on earth, and it comes down and hammers the earth. In fact, 58% of all humans living at the start of the tribulation don't survive past chapters 15 and 16. 58%. We're watching Ukraine and the mass graves. They're having trouble burying hundreds and thousands of people. The world is going to be working with hundreds of millions of people that will cumulatively total 58% of current world population is about 4.8 billion people will die. That's why people don't like Revelation. They say it's gruesome. It is. Sin is horrible. It culminates, the second coming of Christ ends the tribulation. It launches Christ's 1,000-year rule. That's Revelation 20, the first 6 verses. That reveals something, that a perfect earth does not make perfect people. God makes a nearly perfect earth. I mean, the ecology is perfect, the atmosphere is perfect, there are no carnivorous or poisonous, no carnivorous beasts and no poisonous animals or spiders or anything. And yet everybody rebels against him. As soon as Satan gets out, boom, there's a rebellion. And so the Lord steps in, ends the rebellion, and we go to the ending of Revelation, the great white throne. Now let's talk about just one little passage in Revelation. Notice what it says in Revelation 11. It says the whole world is going to be watching. In chapter 11, it's the 2 witnesses. Those 2 that come preaching repentance and trying to bring the Jews back to the Lord, and they're in the court of Jerusalem. If you've seen any of the Left Behind movies, you know what the Bible says? The whole world is watching. For me, as an old timer, you know, we've watched things grow in global awareness. You know, it got to be that the Super Bowl was pretty well known. Boy, the Olympics became kind of a globally watched thing. The tsunami in 2004, they say, was one of the first total. The world was glued to the TV set as they watched 200,000 people die in that tsunami. But we're really into global stuff. COVID is the first long-term global event. I mean, how many times have you seen the chart of all the infections and how many people are dying? I mean, it's on the news constantly. COVID was a global event, keeping the attention of the world a long time. Now the Ukraine isn't just a global event keeping everyone's attention. It's causing something. It's causing, well, this. I mean, look what Russia threatened. That is the Sarmat missile. Now, you know, I'm dyslexic. What that means is that when I was little, I read backward, I wrote backward. It means today, if I'm not careful, I get lost. Bonnie was sleeping once in the car as I was driving, and when she woke up, she said, "Where are we?" And I said, "Honey, I'm not sure." But I said, we went by all these Israeli soldiers wearing bulletproof army vests, helmets, and they were carrying not just machine guns, the bigger ones that shoot like grenades. And I said, and I went through this little opening, and they stepped out of the way, and I said, now we're inside this enclaves that's totally surrounded by the Israeli army. And because I was an American in a nice car, I don't know why they just let me keep driving. I was following Google Maps looking for Herod's Aqueduct. And Bonnie said, "We got to get out of here." I said, "Honey, I'm dyslexic. I get lost, just 2 turns and I'm not sure where I am." But I get off on rabbit trails because of that. If you look at an ancient map of the Roman Empire, do you know what Ukraine is called? In the ancient Roman Empire, it's called Sarmatia. Do you know what the name of the worst of all the Russian arsenal is? It's called the Sarmat. It's actually the Ukraine missile. One of its independently navigable warheads, one can knock out 20 million to 100 million people. It can do 240,000 square miles of death and devastation. That's the size of the country of France, that one of those missiles can fan out and completely obliterate. Do you see why everyone's afraid? And that thing is hypersonic, like they already proved they have, so that thing can evade even America's missile shield. So we're at a time where there's global awareness of an event, the Ukraine invasion, and growing global fear of what lies ahead. Well, that's a great thing to live through, because guess what? These are great times to evangelize. And we should be taking all the opportunities that he puts before us. But you know what? I found, after being a pastor all these years, most people in most churches I served study the Bible, and they always were looking for verses to share with their children, or to share with their husband, or to share with their wife, or to share with their friends. And what happened is the Bible is supposed to be a mirror that we look at ourselves and see how far short of God's expectations of us we become, and we ask him to change us. That's the purpose of the Bible.
Meet me there, bundles of flowers and wade through the hours of cold. Winter shall howl at the walls, tearing down doors of time. Shelter as we go. And promise me this. You wait for me only, scared of the lonely arms. Surface far below these birds. Maybe, just maybe, I'll come home. Who am I to tell you stories of mine? Who am I, darling, for you? Who am I to be a burden in time?